In every city, there are stories that never made the papers. Not because they weren't important, but because they were inconvenient. They live in forgotten files, in half-finished investigations, in questions no one wanted answered. This isn't where justice always wins. This is where the echoes remain. This is Reverberating Noir. There is a specific kind of silence that follows a broken promise. It is not the quiet of an empty room, it is the heavy, suffocating quiet of a door closing that will never open again. Imagine the heat. Illinois. Summer. 1844. The air is thick enough to choke on. Inside a stone jail cell, two brothers wait. They have been told they are safe, they have been told the law will protect them. They are wrong.
Welcome to Reverberating Noir. I am Nina Jovovich.
Tonight, we are not looking at a mystery. The identities of the dead are known. The identities of the killers are known. The mystery is how the system allowed it to happen. How a guarantee of safety became a death warrant. This is the story of Carthage Jail.
To understand the end, you have to understand the trap. Joseph Smith was 38 years old. His brother Hyrum was 44. They were leaders of a growing religious movement, but in June of 1844, they were also targets. The tension in Nauvoo, Illinois, had reached a breaking point. A newspaper called the Nauvoo Expositor published a single issue. It criticized Smith. It alleged secrets the church wanted kept hidden.
And the response was drastic. Smith, acting as mayor, declared the paper a public nuisance. He ordered the press destroyed. In any other context, this is an attack on free speech. In 1844 Illinois, it was a spark in a powder keg. Outrage followed, warrants were issued, charges of riot, then charges of treason.
Here is the critical failure point. The brothers fled across the Mississippi River. They were safe there, but they returned. Why? Because Illinois Governor Thomas Ford gave them a promise. He guaranteed their safety if they surrendered. He told them the state would protect them from the mob. They believed him. On June 25, 1844, they surrendered. They walked into custody based on the word of the highest authority in the state.
There is a particular horror in trusting the hand that strikes you. They were held in Carthage jail. No bail. Treason charges. The walls were stone. The windows were open. Outside, the community they thought would protect them was gathering.
Let's look at the numbers. A mob formed. Estimates range from 150 to 200 men. Many of them blackened their faces with gunpowder. This was not a spontaneous riot. This was coordinated. They knew where the guards would be. They knew the layout of the jail. On the afternoon of June 27, 1844, they stormed the building.
Picture the room. An upstairs bedroom. Joseph. Hyrum. Two friends, John Taylor and Willard Richards. They had a smuggled pistol, a small pepper box. It was a desperate measure. When the door burst open, Hyrum was shot in the face. He died instantly. Joseph fired at the attackers. Then he tried to escape through the window. He made it to the sill.
This is where the forensic reality clashes with the myth. Joseph was shot multiple times as he sprang for the window. He fell to the ground below. He was not dead when he hit the earth. Witnesses say he was shot again by the mob standing over him. John Taylor was severely wounded. Willard Richards was uninjured, but the leaders were gone.
Think about the sound. The crash of the door, the muzzle flashes in a small room, the fall from the window, and then the silence returns. The mob dispersed, the bodies were taken. And the state of Illinois had to answer for what happened in its custody. You would expect justice, you would expect accountability.
You would be wrong. Legal proceedings were initiated. 5 men were indicted for the murders. Levi Williams, Thomas C. Sharp, Mark Aldrich, Jacob C. Davis, William N. Grover. These were not strangers. Williams was a Baptist minister and a militia colonel. Davis was a militia captain. These were men of standing, men with connections.
The trial proceeded, evidence was presented, witnesses testified about the mob. about the blackened faces, about the shots fired in the jail, and the jury delivered its verdict, not guilty. All 5 defendants were acquitted.
Consider the implication. 2 men killed in state custody, a mob of 200 people, 5 leaders identified, 0 convictions. Several other suspects fled to Missouri before they could be arrested. They knew the outcome before the gavel fell. After the acquittal, life resumed. Levi Williams returned to his farm. He died in 1860. Jacob C. Davis resumed his law practice. He later served in Congress.
They walked away. The blood dried on the floor of the jail cell. The grass grew over the spot where Joseph Smith fell. But the question remains, why? Why does a justice system fail so completely?
It is not just failure. It is design. When a community decides a group is outside the protection of the law, the legal system becomes a tool for removal, not justice. The destruction of the newspaper press was illegal, but the response was disproportionate. The governor's promise was likely made with the knowledge that he could not or would not keep it. He needed the Smiths in custody to calm the public. He did not need them alive.
There is a chill in that calculation, to trade 2 lives for public order. Joseph Smith was 38, he had children, he had a wife. Hyrum was 44. He chose to stand with his brother when he could have stayed away. Their deaths were not an accident of history, they were the inevitable result of escalating fear.
We like to think this belongs to the past. That 1844 was a wilder time, a less civilized place. But look at the pattern. A minority group grows in influence. The majority feels threatened, rhetoric escalates, violence follows. And then, accountability proves elusive. The names change, the locations change, the mechanism remains the same.
In Carthage, the mob wore blackened faces. Today, they might wear badges, or suits, or nothing at all. The effect is identical. When the rule of law bends under pressure, it breaks for someone. On June 27th, 1844, it broke for 2 brothers.
There is one detail that often gets overlooked. John Taylor survived. He carried the wounds for the rest of his life. He had to tell the community what happened. He had to explain why the leaders were gone in an instant. Imagine that burden. To be the witness who lived when the others did not. To know exactly who walked into the room. And to know that nothing would be done.
Justice delayed is often justice denied. But justice denied is something else entirely. It is a message. It tells the living that some deaths will not be fully investigated, that some lives matter less than others. The men who killed Joseph and Hyrum Smith were not punished because the system failed them, or perhaps because the system was never really on their side to begin with.
This case is still alive. It lives in the records of the trial. It lives in the history of the church that followed. But it also lives in the silence of the acquitted. Levi Williams died on his farm. Did he speak of it? Jacob C. Davis served in Congress. Did he vote differently knowing what he had done? We do not know. History rarely gives us those answers.
We are left with the image of the jail, stone walls, open window, the heat of an Illinois summer, and the realization that safety is an illusion when the community turns. Joseph Smith trusted the governor. He trusted the law. That trust cost him everything.
And that is the most frightening part. Not the violence, not the mob, but the betrayal. When the people sworn to protect you are the ones who leave the door unlocked.
If you find yourself lingering in the shadows of this story, if you want to explore more cases where the truth refuses to stay buried, subscribe to Reverberating Noir. We do not offer comfort here. We offer clarity. Join us.
The verdict was acquittal. But the question remains unanswered. Who really locked the door?
Until next time. The recording ends here, but the case doesn't. Somewhere, the evidence still exists. The questions still wait. If this story stayed with you, if it followed you into the silence, subscribe to Reverberating Noir. Not for us, for the stories that refuse to disappear.
Because as long as something doesn't make sense, the truth is still out there. And someone will find it.
Until next time, keep listening to the dark.